Hello again, this is Becca, often going by Nightcat or Nightcat's Meow when online, and welcome back for week 4 of our weekly series on programming in Linden's scripting language. Now I think we pretty much covered all we really need to regarding listens and visibility and invisibility toggles for now. There's a few other elements to address, but we'll get to those later. Now, I know I had something I was going to focus on this week, but physics, no. Resing, no. Sounds, no. That would have to go into the bit rates and other things. Oh yeah, new types of prim control, specifically prim sizing, light, and glow. You know, all of that actually operates on one command. So, without further ado, let's get on to this week's scripting and this week's freebie. This is your freebie this week. Right now, it's just 4 prims in the vague hint of a door. We're going to make it an actual door. Now, the first thing we're going to do to make this work is we're going to start preparing the doors to slide open. There are plenty of ways to make them where they will rotate open. We'll actually be getting to that probably next week. So, you're going to create a new script just like you ordinarily would. And actually, you know, we ought to probably discuss the prims themselves first. Here, this is made from your basic box. The same kind of box we taught you to make in week 1. This one, however, is cut in a very particular way. If you look here, you see that blue line going down the middle where it's divided a little bit. That is because of path cut right here. I changed this and it carves up more of that prim. It's currently stopped right at the middle. This is literally the center going this direction of where that prim was like before I cut it. I'm just going to use Control Z to put it back in place. Right there. That's important because if you go to adjust its size, right here we notice we have stretch both sides clicked. This is actually a really important tool if you're planning to build something using the commands I'm going to show you today. Because if you use your Control and Shift at the same time, you get these nice little markers here that you can drag. That will let you drag that prim in and out that way. If we pull it back out here, you can see it seems to only go one direction. That's because we cut the prim right in the middle. If I went ahead and extended it back out, you would see both sides are actually moving. We just hide that fact by cutting it so you only see the one side. Go ahead and put that back in there. Now this is important because the command we're going to use is not going to move the prim. So when we change its size, by doing that it will seem to slide in and out. Just a little bit of an illusion there, but it's going to work just fine for what we're making. Now, that explanation handled, we're going to pop into here. Since this is going to have 2 different settings it can be in, open and closed, just like in week 1, we're going to make a toggle. So the first thing we need is our integer, which is used to store which setting our toggle is on. So integer door equals false semicolon. Remember all the way back to week 1, love your semicolons. Befriend your semicolons. Adore your semicolons. I can never emphasize that enough. Also for convenience, again, we're going to create 2 new functions. Open, which needs to have a section for arguments and container brackets, and close, section for arguments, container brackets. We don't need that. We don't need that. We can save that. It currently doesn't do anything, but we can save it. Let's get the rest of our setup done here, the same way as we would have had before. On touch start, if door equals true, containment, door equals false, close, room for arguments, semicolon, return. Else, since this is a true-false toggle, it can only have two possible conditions. Door equals true, open, return. We're going to also set it to automatically start closed. We can go ahead and save this now. That just confirms that all of our initial structure is perfectly all right, working the way it's supposed to work. It doesn't actually do anything yet, but that's because we haven't set our new functions to do anything yet, but our structure is just fine. So, you're wondering what we're going to put in here. Well, I've told you before, the dirty little secret of programmers is we don't necessarily remember everything. So, in the description of this video, there's going to be a link to a particular spot on the Second Life wiki. That spot is going to lead us to the llSetPrimParams, short for parameters, command. I'm going ahead and copy and pasting that command. Now, one of the reasons for going to the wiki page for this instead of just remembering it is because you can put an awful lot of settings in llSetPrimParams. In this particular instance, I'm scrolling down to the option for Prim Size and taking all of the arguments that it lists and putting them right in here. Now, this is going to look a little bit unusual compared to what we've done in the past already, because you have your regular parentheses for containing your arguments, but then here I am inserting a new set of brackets containing arguments. The reason is these brackets indicate that whatever inside is a list. It's just a set of related pieces of information. In this case, we do it this way because your one llSetPrimParams command can contain multiple parameters to configure. In this case, the first argument in the list is Prim Size. That is what is adjusted when we slide this back and forth. The next, it says vector size. This just tells us what type of variable, a vector, and what it's related to, size. A vector is a set of 3 variables contained inside these pointy brackets. Anytime you're dealing with a vector, you're going to stick it in these kind of brackets. In large part, that's how the code will know what you're dealing with. But where are we going to get these particular vectors? Pretty simple. We're going to get them right off of the prim's data itself. Make sure that you have Edit Linked selected. Select the specific door prim, one of the two in the middle that makes the door. Under the Object tab, you have size in meters. Did not mean to move that. Size in meters. 2.5, 0.1, and 3.0. So you're literally just going to go in there, copy, open this up, Control V to paste, comma, space, Control C, Control V, there, comma, was getting the control mixed up with the word, paste, Control C, copy, Control V, paste, and that completes that command. Now, right now, that's not in the right place. It's the the settings are for the door being closed, I stuck it in open. You'll see why in just a moment, because I can very conveniently copy and paste, and we only have to change one variable to fix this. So we minimize that, slide this door open, pull this back up. Now here, we look at these, 0.52 versus 2.5. That's the one that changed. So we copy, paste, save. It automatically closed because we set state entry to close. So we can minimize this. And it's not working. That means I did something wrong. Take a minute to look at the code. See if you can identify what it is. I know what I did wrong, but take a moment to look at this. This is a chance to practice troubleshooting skills. Spotting a simple error in a script is a thing you're going to have to do a lot. It can be a typo, it can be a mistake in how you designed it, but you notice I usually have one little thing to go back and fix when I do these tutorials for you. This time I'm giving you a chance to look for it yourself. If you haven't already found it, feel free to pause the video and have a look. If you have, congratulations. If you haven't, it's alright. This is only week 4. You're still new to this. It is a skill you develop over time and practice. You will get it. I guarantee you'll get it, but it can take time. The problem was right here. When you're setting a variable, you can use a single equal sign. When you're comparing it, if you remember week 1, you have to have the double equal sign. So we'll save that again. Successful. And now it works just fine. That small a mistake can screw you up completely. And that's one that the compiler won't catch. Now, what are we going to do with this? In order to work the other side, pretty simple. Pop this open. Need to rename this door control. Pull that out. Pop it in this one. Yeah, stuck it a little too far over. There we go. Works just fine. The problem is they're not connected. They're not communicating. So you would have to work each side of your door individually. And that's really annoying for a door. So, what do we do about it? Well, here's where I introduce you to the second new concept for the week. We're going to introduce you to a new type of conveying a command between objects. This one, though, occurs only inside the build. It will not be seen by the outside world. It will not show up on any chat channel. It will not be received by anything else, no matter what its key is, no matter where it is. If it's not part of this link set, it won't know that this message ever existed. How are we going to do that? Like so. First, we're going to create the receiver. Link _ message. Integer from, because that records what link number, you remember that from last week, the message came from. Then we have integer chan or channel, my preferred shorthand for channel, because these can come in multiple channels the same way that a spoken or HUD relayed command can. String message and key who, because it's capable of registering attached keys, or there are ways of forwarding the key of the avatar that caused the message to be sent. There's all sorts of ways to do that. There's even interesting ways you can filter for things. We'll get into a lot of those in later weeks. Right now, just understand you have to have all of these. And if you ever just remember that a command exists, but you don't remember all of its arguments, you can always look for it on the Second Life wiki. An easy way to find it is just open up Google, type LSL, and then whatever part of the command you remember, and it should be able to lead you right to it. So, for right now, we've got this here. If message double equals, quotation marks, open, we make sure door equals false, use the open command, and return. Else if message double equals, close, door equals true, run close, spell return correctly, and now it has a way to receive a command from elsewhere inside the object. So we're going to add the ability to send that command as well. And this is llMessageLinked. So we do not need to do anything with the from argument, since that is determined by which prim in the link set sent the message, but we do need a channel. In this case, 0 is fine. This time, the message cannot leave the object, so it doesn't matter what channel you use. Next, we need the message. To send that message, you're going to go llMessageLinked. The from up here, that just says which prim it came from. We don't have that here. What we do have is telling it where to go. And that is link set. That's to send it to the entire object. Then we need the channel. We can use 0 here because it will not leave the object. Somebody cannot overhear this. It cannot become chat spam. It's totally safe. Next, we need the message. Since this is to close it, we use the close message. And the key, most of the time if you're sending a message link like this, you're just going to use null key. There may be times when you'd have a reason to send the key, but it usually is going to be a case of something clicked this or something bumped into this, which we'll actually be dealing with in a minute. And you want to analyze what that is. Was it an object? Was it an avatar? Was it something else? There are times you want it to react differently if the owner clicks it versus if somebody else does. You can actually transmit the key, which could be received through touch start, through here, but we don't need to worry about that. It's a thing you can do, but you don't need to worry about it. Then we just Control-C and Control-V to copy this, since we only need to change one thing. Change that to open. And save. Successful. Bring the inventory back up again. We can delete the door control from a moment ago. Edit linked to get to this one. Take this door control. Go to the other door. Delete. Drop it in. Close. Close. And now they communicate to each other. But we have a new problem. That's because I set these incorrectly. Again, this is the thing you're going to have to worry about. In this case, all it did is prevented it from responding when I tried to close it back up again. So my variable door meant is, can you walk through this as a door? Being backwards meant that when I clicked it and it got its message, it received the message and set it to the wrong setting. And you see, that simple fix that. But if I do it on this side, it doesn't work. Why? Because we didn't fix it over there. When I tell y'all you have to be able to keep an eye out for little problems like this, these are the kind of things I'm talking about. Tiny little mistakes that they're called logical errors as opposed to syntax errors. The reason is a logical error is in the set of steps your program is following. A syntax error is in how you type the commands. The compiler can identify a syntax error. It can identify that there's something wrong with how this command is put together and it doesn't know what to do with it. A logical error, the compiler is entirely blind to those, so you have to really keep an eye out for that sort of thing. So you see, they're completely linked now. However, right now you have to actually walk up and click the door in order to make it open. We're going to add one more trick to this door. And for that, edit link is not checked because we're making it work for the entire door. So we pop this open. We're not going to need state entry. We're not even going to need touch start. We're going to need a new one. Collision start. It needs an integer for recording its collisions. Collision start happens anytime that one object contacts another, whether it's an avatar, a projectile, a car, anything. One object touches another, it triggers a collision. Happening on collision start means that the object is expected to do something when that happens. What is it going to do? Simple. It's going to send a message linked through the link set on channel 0. It is going to send the message open, and we are not concerned about the key that caused this to happen. Now, if we only do this, the door will stay open until you click it to close it. But sliding doors tend to be automatic, so we're going to make this one appropriately automatic. How are we going to do that? With one more new idea. llSetTimer event. We're going to set that for 5. That number there, that's the number of seconds before the timer event is triggered. And that's just simply timer containing brackets, set timer event 0. What that means is it will no longer be tracking its timer, otherwise this will repeat. If you don't stop it with a set timer event 0, this will keep repeating. Then we're going to message linked, link set 0, close. Again, we don't care about a key, so null key. Oh, that was a typo. That was a period instead of a comma. That's all that was. There we go. So I'm going to stand up over here. Here in my skyloft. Door open. Give that a couple seconds. Door close. Door open. Door close. That is how you build a door. Next time we'll go into how to make it swing open instead of slide open, but this is where I wanted to start y'all at. Now, I think that's doing pretty good for this week, but I promised you all how to make a light. And you have most of what you need to know to do it already. Right-click, create, pick a sphere. There's your sphere. Go to texture, make that blank. Here, kind of yellow. New script. Just as we were doing a minute ago, integer on, equals false. Clear that out. If on, double equals true. Containers on equals false. Return. All we're doing is just getting the basic logical parts set up here. Else on equals true. Return. Going to move that over here for convenience. We have our little ball here. Now, you're going to refer back to set primitive parameters. We're going to be setting several parameters this time. Before, we only set one. This time, we're going to set several of them. The first one we're going to get is color. Back to this. With these in place, we're going to set up the command show. We're going to pop over to the wiki to gather what we need. Set primitive parameters, or params. The first thing we're going to set is the color, because you want this to behave like you would expect a real-world light to behave, and that's not going to look the same way if you're turning it on as it will if you're turning it off. So, prim color, integer face. That is going to be all sides. Vector color. I told you a vector is a set of 3 variables contained in these little brackets. Color in Linden scripting language operates on an RGB value. That's red, green, blue. If you've dealt with graphics programs or the like, you've probably run into this. And it goes from 0 to 1. Think of 1 as 100%. So, in this case, we're going to set it to be a nice yellow, so it'll glow the right nice yellow old-fashioned incandescent bulb glow. So we're going to set that to red 1, green 1, blue 0, and float alpha, or how visible is this, 1. Next we're going to go off. I could have just done on and off, but I had on as the name for the variable up here, so I had to use something else there. Copy, paste, and just change these to 0 and 0. Test. Compiled. So we're successfully clicking that part on and off. Next, we want it to glow a little bit to kind of show our merry little light shining. So we're going to go back to the wiki, copy the data for glow, and you can actually, for convenience, drop a line here. The program actually, the compiler actually interprets the end of the line where your semicolon is, not where your line breaks are. So you can sometimes break a line where it's convenient, irregardless of where your code is. So all sides, float intensity. Remember, float is something with decimal points in it. So 0.3. We're then going to take this, make sure there's a comma there, and 0.0. Successful. Now you see it has that nice cheery glow about it. And the last part, of course, we need the actual light. So we'd go back to the wiki and find Prim Point of Light. This one's formatted just a touch differently, so we're going to have to play around with what we get off of the wiki just a bit more than we have. Get rid of those brackets. Boolean, that's what we have up here with the true and false. So true will mean it will emit light. We're going to set the color to the same as the actual light is being configured, 110. Now intensity, radius, and fall off. These you might want to play around with a little bit. How you do it is you go into your edit, you go into the features tab. This checkbox is the equivalent of Prim Point of Light true or false. So now it's true, and you can see it lighting up this over here. The color there is, it would normally default to white, but I was playing with this just a moment between cuts, so it's already set to yellow, but you can set it to anything you want in here. Our code is setting it to bright yellow. And then you have here your intensity, your radius, and your fall off. This is for inserting a texture. If you want a projection light, we will actually cover this later in a different tutorial. And you don't have to worry about field of view, focus, or ambience unless you're dealing with that. So you can kind of ignore these for now. Right now we only need these over here. And that corresponds directly to your intensity, 1.0, your radius, 10.0, and your fall off, which is 0.75. Save. All that worked out. So we're just going to copy, paste here, add a comma, paste, and all we have to do is change point of light to false. Save, close that, minimize this, and there you have a light. With all the necessary settings to have it work like you would expect it to in a more real-world environment. And if you want to make a proper lamp out of it, that's easy. Go up into here, choose a cylinder, narrow it. Don't stretch both sides this time. Post. Texture, black, shininess, medium, there. And link them together. Now you have a simple lamp. And you have all the skills already between this and previous weeks to go through and set your lamp to work on command, to work on control from another script in another location, any means you want. So, this bright idea has been brought to you by the Nightcat's Meow. Hope to see you again next week for another scripting video and a further journey into the wonderful world of programming. These are currently releasing every Tuesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Feel free to check back, hit a like, hit a subscribe. Those things let me know that people are really enjoying this and really learning from it. If you have any questions that I haven't been answering, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll go and review the comments and add responses in future videos. Don't be nervous about asking questions. You may have a question that somebody else does and just isn't up to answering. Ask it. If I didn't explain something well, let me know in the comments and I'll go ahead and address that. These are for your benefit. The more you tell me, the more I can do for you. So, once again, this is Becca signing off and I'll see you next week.